The journey of a single drop in a jungle waterfall begins not with the rain that falls directly on the canopy, but in a complex slow-motion ballet that started weeks, months, or even years earlier, hundreds of miles away. This is the first grand misconception. We see the dramatic plunge and think it's a local event. In reality, it is the spectacular finale of a continent-spanning saga. The water cascading down those mossy rocks is a relic of distant weather systems, of oceanic evaporation pushed by trade winds across entire land masses until it collides with the great natural walls of mountain ranges, forcing it to condense and fall. But the jungle itself is the master architect of its own abundance. This is where the magic of the canopy intercept comes into play. A mature tropical rainforest canopy is not a passive umbrella. It's a dynamic, multi-layered sponge and redistribution network. When rain falls, up to 25% of it never even reaches the forest floor directly. It is caught by the intricate lattice of leaves, branches, epiphytes, and vines. Some of this water evaporates back immediately, contributing to the region's humidity in a process called canopy evaporation. A significant portion, however, is absorbed by the plants themselves, or slowly drips down as through fall and stem flow. This staggered delivery system is crucial. It means the ground is not subjected to a violent deluge that would cause massive erosion, but is instead gently and constantly fed. The water then begins its subterranean journey, infiltrating a soil that is not dirt, but a living matrix of roots, fungal mycelium, and organic matter. This matrix, often just inches thick in tropical soils, acts like a colossal filter and a slow-release reservoir. The water is purified, stripped of impurities as it interacts with roots and microbes, and then stored in natural aquifers, or begins its slow, seepage-fed travel downslope. This process, known as base flow, is what sustains rivers and streams during dry periods. It's a constant, reliable trickle, born from the jungle's memory of past rains. So by the time water gathers into a recognizable stream heading for a cliff edge, it is already ancient in its journey, carrying not just water, but a dissolved record of its passage, minerals leached from specific rock types, organic compounds from decomposing leaves, giving it the characteristic tea-stained tint in some jungles, and a unique isotopic signature. This isn't mere runoff, it's the lifeblood of the biome, meticulously prepared and delivered. The waterfall, then, is not a beginning, but a dramatic interruption in a long, slow story of filtration and flow. The pool it creates at its base is equally significant, functioning as a natural plunge pool that aerates the water, dramatically increasing its oxygen content, a vital process for the aquatic life that will inhabit the downstream rivers. This aeration also releases dissolved gases and can even alter the local microclimate with a perpetual mist. Every atom of oxygen breathed by the surrounding vegetation, every drink taken by a forest creature, is intertwined with this cyclical epic. To stand before a jungle waterfall is to stand before a chronological monument, witnessing a moment in a cycle that defies human timescales, a cycle that has turned rock into landscape and water into a sculptor of ecosystems. And as this oxygen-rich, mineral-infused water continues its journey beyond the pool, it sets the stage for the next act, the explosion of life it directly supports. A topic so vast and intricate it requires its own deep dive, which we will embark on next, but only if you're still with me. So let me know in the comments if you can guess how many gallons might flow over a major waterfall like this every single minute. If the waterfall's origin is an epic of physics and hydrology, its immediate presence is a crescendo of biology, a hypercharged nucleus of life that radiates outward in concentric circles of ecological dependency. The constant, thunderous roar and the perpetual mist create a microclimate within a microclimate, a zone of such specific conditions that it has given rise to species found nowhere else on Earth, a phenomenon known as endemism. Begin with the rock face itself. which seems barren from a distance, but is in fact a vertical garden. The perpetual moisture allows for the colonization of pioneering species like algae, cyanobacteria, and lichen. These organisms are the ecosystem's engineers, slowly secreting acids that break down the rock into minute particles, and their dead bodies create the first thin layer of organic substrate. This paves the way for mosses and ferns, whose spores are perfectly adapted to travel in moist air. Their root-like structures, called rhizoids, bind this nascent soil, creating pockets for more substantial plants like begonias or peperomias to take root directly in the rock walls. This vertical tapestry is a world unto itself. In the Andes, the endangered Andean cock of the rock finds lecking grounds near waterfalls, the male's brilliant scarlet plumage visible against the green and gray. In Southeast Asia, the waterfall swiftlet builds its precious, edible nests on the sheltered ledges behind the curtain of water, a place safe from almost all predators. The pool at the base is a universe of adaptation. The high oxygen levels support fish species with extraordinary metabolisms. In the Amazon, fish like some tetraspecies are adapted to the turbulent, aerated waters. The pool edges, where the water slows, become nurseries for amphibian life. This is the realm of frogs, whose life cycles are inextricably linked to the humidity and the specific acoustics of the falls. Many species have evolved mating calls that pierce through the low-frequency rumble of the water, a high-pitched chirp or whistle that potential mates can discern from the background noise. The iconic poison dart frogs of Central and South America. Their vibrant skins a warning of potent toxins derived from their diet of rainforest ants and mites. Often breed in the tiny, water-filled phytotelmas, plant-held pools of bromeliads that grow in abundance in the spray zone. The mist zone, extending sometimes hundreds of feet from the falls, is where the botanical magic becomes most apparent. Plants here are not just drought-tolerant, they are mist harvesters. Their leaves often have specialized structures, dense hair, waxy coatings, or funnel-shaped forms that capture airborne water droplets and channel them down to their roots. This allows for an explosion of epiphytic growth. Orchids, bromeliads, and air plants cloak every available branch, creating suspended gardens that drink directly from the air. This dense vegetation, in turn, supports an insect population of staggering diversity, which fuels a food web that includes spiders, birds, and bats. The waterfall, therefore, acts as a biological pump and a fortress. It provides a constant water source during dry seasons, making it a critical refuge for wide-ranging animals. Camera trap studies in forests from Costa Rica to Borneo consistently show higher mammal traffic near waterfall systems, from tapirs and deer coming to drink, to predators like jaguars or clouded leopards following the herbivore trails. The sound of the falls also provides a form of acoustic camouflage, masking the approach of both predator and prey, adding another layer of strategic complexity to the daily struggle for survival. This biodiversity hotspot is a direct result of the waterfall's abiotic factors: sound, vibration, mist, and oxygenated water. It's a powerful demonstration of how a single geological feature can become the engine for an entire community of life, shaping evolution in its immediate vicinity. But what does this vibrant, chaotic symphony of life do to the human mind that witnesses it? That leads us to our next profound layer, the neuroscience and psychology of our deep, seemingly innate response to this scene. A response that corporations and app designers are spending millions to try and digitally replicate. When you stand before a massive jungle waterfall, feeling the mist on your skin and the sub-bass rumble in your chest, something palpable shifts inside your brain. This isn't just poetic feeling. It's a quantifiable neurological event that researchers are now mapping. And it reveals why such places feel less like scenery and more like therapy. The experience triggers a cascade of neurochemical and cognitive processes central to what psychologists call awe. Awe is defined as the emotion we feel in the presence of something vast that transcends our current understanding of the world. And a jungle waterfall, with its scale, power, age, and intricate beauty, is a classic awe stimulus. The first thing that happens is a dampening of activity in the brain's default mode network, DMN. The DMN is the neural network associated with self-referential thought, your internal monologue, your worries, your mental to-do list, your sense of you as a distinct entity separate from your environment. When the DMN quietens, a phenomenon sometimes called the quieting of the self occurs. That nagging voice in your head fades into the background. This is coupled with a surge in activity in regions associated with attention, visual processing, and the processing of reward. Your brain is essentially reallocating resources from inward-focused narrative to outward-focused perception. You become fully present. Biologically, this state is often accompanied by a decrease in inflammatory cytokines, markers of stress, and a shift in autonomic nervous system balance, reducing the fight-or-flight sympathetic tone and enhancing the rest and digest parasympathetic tone. Your heart rate may synchronize with the rhythmic patterns of the falling water, a phenomenon known as entrainment. Furthermore, the visual complexity of the scene, the fractal patterns of the water flow, the repeating but non-identical shapes of leaves and rocks engages the brain in a type of effortless attention known as soft fascination. Unlike the hard fascination of a flashing screen, which demands attention and depletes cognitive resources, soft fascination allows the brain's executive functions to rest and replenish. This is the essence of psychological restoration, a concept formalized in attention restoration theory. The soundscape plays an equally critical role. The broadband, steady-state noise of the waterfall acts as a natural acoustic mask. It drowns out the jarring, intermittent noises of modern life sirens, conversations, machinery that our brains are evolutionarily primed to monitor as potential threats. This masking effect reduces cognitive load and stress. Simultaneously, the low-frequency components of the sound can induce feelings of calm and even mild dissociation from immediate anxieties. Companies creating meditation apps and white noise machines strive, and largely fail, to perfectly replicate this specific acoustic profile, because they cannot capture its spatial, vibrational, and irregular organic quality. The scent of the air laden with negative ions and the petrichor-like smell of wet vegetation and goma also has a documented psychoactive effect. Negative ions, abundant in moving air and water, are associated with improved mood, reduced stress, and enhanced cognitive performance in numerous studies. When you combine all these stimuli, the visual fractal complexity, the acoustic masking and rhythmic sound, the tactile mist, the ionized smell, you get a multi-sensory bath that literally reboots cognitive function. It creates a state of mindful awe that reduces stress, increases feelings of connectedness to something larger than oneself, and can even enhance creativity and pro-social behavior. This isn't mystical thinking. It's environmental psychology. Our ancestors evolved in landscapes where such features signaled survival, clean water, fertile land, and refuge. Our neurological reward for finding them is embedded in our biology. So, we are not just looking at a beautiful thing. We are engaging in a form of deep, unconscious dialogue with an environment that our brains recognize as profoundly significant and beneficial. This deep-seated reverence has, unsurprisingly, shaped human culture for millennia, weaving the jungle waterfall into the very fabric of our myths, stories, and spiritual practices, a rich tapestry we will unravel next. Beyond biology and neuroscience, the jungle waterfall occupies a cavernous space in the collective human imagination, serving as a potent archetype across virtually all cultures that have ever existed within earshot of one. It is rarely just a physical feature. It is a boundary, a portal, a deity, and a symbol of the uncontrollable sublime. In mythology, the constant, thunderous noise and the impenetrable veil of water have consistently marked these places as gateways to other realms. In Norse cosmology, waterfalls were often associated with the boundaries between the world of humans, Midgard, and the world of the gods or giants. In Mesoamerican cultures, cenotes and the waterfalls associated with them were considered sacred portals to the underworld. Shibaba, places of both danger and communication with ancestors. Across West Africa, and in the African diaspora, religions like Kandam, voodoos, waterfalls, and rushing rivers are the domain of powerful spirits. Like Osun, in Yoruba tradition, the Orisha of fresh water, fertility, love, and sensuality, who is often petitioned at waterfall sites. In Southeast Asia, especially in Thai and Balinese beliefs, waterfalls are inhabited by protective spirits known as Fi or Diwan, and small shrines are often found at their bases, offerings left to appease these entities and ensure the continued flow of water and goodwill. This global pattern of spiritual attribution is a direct anthropomorphism of the waterfall's observable characteristics. Its perpetual motion suggests an immortal, animating force. Its voice is an unending speech. Its inaccessibility, the space behind the curtain, suggests a hidden chamber, a womb or a tomb. Furthermore, the waterfall is a classic symbol of the sublime in art and literature, a concept articulated by philosophers like Edmund Burke and Immanuel Kant, describing the thrilling terror and all we feel when confronted with nature's overwhelming power and magnitude. It represents beauty tinged with danger, a pleasure derived from witnessing a force that could obliterate us, yet from a position of relative safety. This is why waterfalls feature so prominently in romantic poetry and painting as emblems of raw, untamed nature in contrast to human order and rationality. In countless folktales, waterfalls are places of transformation and trial. They are where heroes go to seek wisdom, where shamans embark on vision quests, and where ordinary people might encounter the extraordinary, be it a hidden fairy kingdom, a wise old hermit, or cleansing baptism. The motif of passing behind the waterfall into a secret world is ubiquitous. From the Arthurian legend of the Lady of the Lake to the Chinese classic Journey to the West, where a waterfall conceals the water curtain cave, and of course in modern pop culture, Superman's Fortress of Solitude. This recurring theme speaks to a deep human intuition that behind the obvious, noisy facade of reality, there lies a hidden, quieter, more profound truth. The waterfall, in its very structure, physically manifests this idea. It also serves as a powerful metaphor in philosophical and spiritual discourse. In Zen Buddhism, the waterfall's constant flow, yet ever-changing form is a teaching on impermanence and the eternal present moment. No drop of water is the same, yet the river persists. In Taoist thought, the waterfall exemplifies the principle of wu-weir, or effortless action, as it flows, powerfully without struggle, adapting to and wearing down the hardest rock through persistent, gentle force. To engage with a jungle waterfall, therefore, is to engage with a library of human meaning. It is to stand at a crossroads of geology and mythology, where the literal life-giving water is also a stream of cultural consciousness. But this profound legacy, and the biological and psychological wonders we detailed, now face a threat of unprecedented scale in the modern age, a threat that brings us to our final, urgent chapter. The paradox of the jungle waterfall is that it appears as the very symbol of timeless, indomitable power, yet it is a fragile giant, acutely vulnerable to a suite of interconnected threats born from the human age, the Anthropocene. Its existence is a delicate balance of the climatic, geological, and biological systems we've described, and disrupting any one can silence it forever. The most insidious threat is not direct destruction, but indirect climate change. Altered rainfall patterns, more intense droughts punctuated by catastrophic floods disrupt the base flow system. Prolonged droughts, lower the water table, reducing the seepage that feeds the waterfall year-round, turning a perennial spectacle into a seasonal trickle or a dry cliff. Conversely, megastorms cause massive, erosive runoff that can choke pools with sediment, destabilize the surrounding forest, and even trigger landslides that alter the waterfall's course or bury it entirely. Deforestation is the co-conspirator. Removing the canopy destroys the intricate interception, absorption, and slow-release system. Rain hits bare ground directly, causing immediate, violent runoff that carries topsoil away, further diminishing the land's ability to retain water. This leads to a double whammy: flash floods below and a depleted aquifer above. A study in the Brazilian Amazon showed that streams in deforested watersheds had water temperatures up to 6 degrees Celsius higher and flow rates 25% lower in the dry season compared to forested ones, a death sentence for the delicate aquatic ecosystems dependent on the waterfall's microclimate. Then there is the direct, often well-intentioned, threat of tourism. Unregulated foot traffic compacts soil, kills understory vegetation, and introduces invasive plant species on boots and clothing. The noise pollution from crowds and vehicles can displace wildlife that relies on acoustic signals. Sunscreen, insect repellent, and other chemicals washed off swimmers in popular plunge pools can accumulate, poisoning amphibians and disrupting aquatic microbiomes. The very act of loving a place to death is a real phenomenon, as seen in iconic sites like Thailand's Rowan Falls or Jamaica's Dunn's River Falls, where management is a constant battle between access and preservation. Furthermore, waterfalls are often targeted for hydropower, especially run-of-the-river projects that may seem less damaging than large dams but still involve diversion weirs, pipelines, and powerhouses that can dewater the natural cataract for much of the year, turning a living ecosystem into an engineered spillway operated for grid demand. The cultural and spiritual loss is incalculable. A silenced waterfall is not just a lost photo opportunity. It is a severed link to heritage, a desecrated temple, and a failed dialogue between humanity and nature. Protecting them, therefore, requires a holistic strategy that goes beyond fencing them off. It requires protecting entire watersheds, enforcing sustainable tourism limits, modeled on carrying capacity studies, supporting indigenous land stewardship, as indigenous-controlled lands consistently show higher biodiversity and forest integrity, and advocating for climate action as the non-negotiable backdrop to all conservation. The jungle waterfall stands as a canary in the coal mine for planetary health. Its vigor reflects the health of the entire system. Intact forests, stable climate, pure water. Its diminishment is a stark warning siren we cannot afford to ignore. So what is the call to action after this 5,000-word journey from droplet to deity, from neuron to threat? It is multi-layered, just like the waterfall itself. First, engage digitally. If this deep dive resonated with you, then you are part of a community that values substance over sound bites. Prove it. Smash the like button. It tells the algorithm this long form, research-based content matters. Leave a comment below telling me which of the 5 dimensions, origin, life, mind, myth, or threat, resonated most, or share your own waterfall story. And crucially, subscribe and hit the bell. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a channel dedicated to unpacking the profound stories of our natural world. Second, engage intellectually. Be a discerning traveler. If you visit a jungle waterfall, choose operators with verifiable eco-credentials. Follow all guidelines, stay on trails, carry out all waste, and never use chemicals in the water. Your visit should be a silent homage, not a disruptive invasion. Third, engage actively. Support organizations that protect entire watersheds and advocate for indigenous land rights. Think global, act local. Even supporting reforestation projects or fighting for clean water policies in your own region contributes to the global hydrological cycle that feeds the distant jungles. The waterfall is not over there. It is connected to your own tap, your own climate. We started with a shocking hook about water being the most powerful force. We end with a realization the second most powerful force is human choice. We can choose to be the agents of disruption or the guardians of the flow. The jungle waterfall, in its majestic, roaring persistence, is both a question and an answer. It asks us what kind of ancestors we will be. Let your actions, from the click of a subscribe button to the voice in your community, be the answer that ensures these cathedrals of nature continue to thunder for millennia to come. The journey doesn't end. When the video does, it starts. Now over to you.